Chapter 12, Part 2. I waited impatiently for the last few players to leave the locker room. Kevin had to be last, Steve before him, then me. It was one of those unwritten rules like finishing first when doing laps or wind sprints, or keeping your helmet on while the coach was talking. Those were things the captain did. Things I'd do next year and teach the guy who would be captain the year after me. "Come on, Moose," Kevin yelled. "Hurry up or you'll miss the bus." "Keep your shirt on," Moose replied. "We have our shirts on. Get a move on." Slowly Moose stood up, pulled on his shirt, and grabbed his equipment bag. He took a few steps and staggered, almost falling down. Steve grabbed Moose by the arm and helped him to the bench. "You okay?" Kevin asked anxiously as he stood over top of him. "Yeah, just got a little lightheaded, that's all." "It looked like you were going to faint." "I'm okay." "Jay, get him something to drink, some Gatorade," Kevin ordered. "No," Moose said abruptly. "Nothing to drink. I can't have anything to drink. Ramadan." "Ramadan?" Steve asked. "Is that like diabetes or something?" Kevin shook his head. "Steve, sometimes you amaze me." "Sometimes I amaze me too, but what's that got to do with diabetes?" "Ramadan is a special time in the Muslim calendar," Moose said. "For a month we have to be more observant of our faith." "What's that got to do with you almost fainting?" Steve asked. "For the whole month we can't drink or eat." "You can't eat for a month? That's impossible," Steve said. "I can hardly survive until fourth period for lunch." No, we eat and drink. We just can't do either between sunrise and sunset," Moose explained. "For the whole month?" Steve said, repeating it like he really didn't believe his ears. Moose nodded. "We eat a big meal for breakfast with lots to drink. Then we fast all day until we have another big meal as soon as the sun sets." "No wonder you almost fainted," Kevin said. "You can't play a football game without drinking something." "You can." "I have. This is week 3 of Ramadan and my 3rd game." "What happened today?" "I slept in this morning and didn't have a chance to drink enough before the sun came up. It was hot today and Coach Pui played me into the 4th quarter." "Why didn't you tell him to take you out?" I asked. "I couldn't. I didn't tell him about any of this. I was afraid he wouldn't play me at all." He paused. "You guys aren't going to tell him, are you?" We waited for Kevin to answer. Whatever he said, we go along with it. It was much easier than actually having to form our own opinion. "Just one more week, right?" Kevin asked. "One more." "And you'll drink and eat more before that game and the rest of the practices, right?" "I won't make that mistake again," Moose said reassuringly. "We're a better team with you on the field than off," Kevin said. "This stays in the locker room, okay?" he asked, turning toward me and Steve. I nodded. "Count on it." "No question," Steve said. "Then come on, let's get going." Moose got up and Steve took his one arm. "Carry his bag," Kevin ordered. "You two stay close to him on the bus and I'll drive him straight home from school." We had been the last on the bus and we needed to be the last off. We wanted to wait until Coach Pui and the other 3 assistants were inside the school in case Moose had another little stumble. It was also better that nobody else on the team saw it either. "How are you feeling?" I asked Moose. I'm feeling okay. Just really hungry and thirsty." "What time is it?" "Almost 6. Then I don't have to wait very long. Sunset is at 6:25 today." "That early? Are you sure?" Steve asked. "Believe me, if you were fasting all day you'd know exactly when sunset happens." "We'll have you home by then," Kevin said. "Let's go." We got up and walked off the bus. All 3 of us watched him pretty carefully. "I'm just parked over there," Kevin offered. "I have to go to my locker," Moose said. "Homework." "Forget the homework," Steve said. "Can't. I have a calculus test tomorrow. I need my book." "Forget it. So you get an 80 instead of a 90. Big deal." "It's more like a 40 instead of a 60. I need to pass to stay on the team." "I thought all brown people did well in math," Steve said. "That's Chinese people," Moose said. "Most of the brown people in my classes do pretty good." "Not all. It's a stereotype," Moose said. "Sort of like all black people can dance." "That one's true," Steve joked. "Yeah, right," Kevin said. "Obviously you've never seen yourself on video. Look who's talking. I can bust a move and you look like all your moves are busted." "I need my textbooks," Moose said again. "Fine, we'll get you your textbooks." Kevin shook his head slowly. "Anybody else need to get something from their locker?" "Yeah, right, like I'm going to study," Steve snorted. "Me neither." "Good. You two walk him to his locker and I'll pull the car around the back to meet you there." We started for the school while Kevin went for the car. Moose was moving slowly, but he seemed pretty solid on his feet. We entered the school. It was, once again, that quiet time I liked so much. The school was deserted. Some of the lights were out, making the halls dim. We headed toward the shop classes. Moose's locker was, of course, in the brown corridor. I was grateful for that. The rest of us had lockers by the gym, close to the gym office. The coaches usually stayed there after every game going over film. Moose's locker was nowhere near them. We passed by Azine's gaping locker. The police tape might have been gone, but the missing door pretty well marked the spot. I wondered if they'd found anything in it. If they had, we probably would have heard about it on the news. That was the only way we would have heard about it. Still nothing from the school. Here it is, Moose said. How come you're having trouble in calculus? Steve asked. My parents think it's because I'm wasting too much time playing football, he said as he removed a book. Playing football isn't wasting time, Steve said firmly. Tell that to my parents. They think that anything under a 90 is a disgrace to the family. If I pulled off a 90, my parents wouldn't know whether to throw me a party or have me tested for performance-enhancing drugs. Maybe they'd do both, I'd suggested. Moose slammed his locker closed and clicked the lock back on. We went down the corridor toward the back doors where Kevin would be waiting. A Big Mac, Steve said. No, make that 2 Big Macs. What about 2 Big Macs? I asked. That's the first thing I'd eat if I hadn't eaten all day. 2 Big Macs, a big order of fries, and the biggest Coke they have. The Coke and fries sound good, but I don't eat meat, Moose said. You're a vegetarian? I asked. Normally I eat some meat, but none during the holy seasons like Ramadan. We opened the door and took 2 steps before we skidded to a stop. Standing in the middle of Brown Town were Mr. Atkins, one of the vice principals, a couple of teachers, some kids, one of the caretakers, and 2 cops. For a second I thought about turning us around and heading back into the school, but the principal saw us and motioned for us to join them.